You wake up one day and nothing matters anymore. The job you fought for, the goals you set, the person you tried so hard to become, all of it feels like someone else's dream. You've been through what some call ego death. Your old identity cracked open and fell apart. Maybe it happened during a crisis, a loss, or just years of living a life that wasn't really yours. Now you're sitting in the wreckage, wondering why you can't seem to care about anything. Your friends tell you to set new goals. Self-help books say to visualize your future. But every time you try, it feels fake, empty, like you're putting on clothes that don't fit. Here's what nobody tells you about this phase. You're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not depressed, you're in transition, and the way forward isn't what you think. The old you died for a reason. It was built on other people's expectations, society's rules, and a desperate need to be someone else. Now that it's gone, you have a choice. You can try to rebuild the same broken identity, or you can discover who you actually are underneath all that noise. Most people panic at this point. They grab onto the first goal that sounds reasonable and force themselves to care about it. They fake motivation until they burn out again. But there's another path, a deeper one. The space you're in right now isn't emptiness, it's potential. Think of it like a blank canvas. You can't paint your masterpiece if the canvas is already covered with someone else's picture. The old you had to go so the real you could emerge. But emergence takes time. It requires something our culture hates: patience with yourself, rest without guilt, stillness without shame. Your body knows this. That's why you feel tired. That's why nothing sounds exciting yet. You're not being lazy. You're healing from years of being someone you weren't meant to be. And healing happens in the quiet spaces, not in the hustle. Here's where most advice gets it wrong. Everyone talks about finding your passion like it's hiding under a rock somewhere. But passion isn't something you find. It's something that finds you when you stop running from yourself. The real work isn't about discovering what you love. It's about accepting what you feel right now, even if what you feel is nothing. Especially if what you feel is nothing. When you stop fighting your emptiness, something interesting happens. You start to notice small things. A song that makes you pause. A conversation that sparks curiosity. A random urge to write or walk or create something with your hands. These aren't big dramatic callings. They're whispers. And most people miss them because they're listening for sirens. Your new motivation won't sound like your old motivation. It won't scream at you to achieve or succeed or become somebody important. It will suggest. It will invite. It will feel like coming home to yourself. But you have to be quiet enough to hear it. And quiet means letting yourself feel whatever is actually there without trying to fix it or change it or make it more positive. If you're sad, be sad fully. If you're angry, let that anger exist. If you're scared, sit with the fear. These emotions aren't obstacles to your new life. They're the raw materials for it. Every feeling you've been taught to avoid contains information about who you really are. Your sadness might be grief for the life you never got to live. Your anger might be your soul's way of protecting something precious. Your fear might be pointing toward exactly what you need to do next. Children understand this naturally. They feel everything completely, then move on. They don't analyze their emotions or judge them or try to optimize them. They just let them flow through. But somewhere along the way, we learned that feelings were problems to solve instead of experiences to have. We started believing that being happy all the time was the goal, instead of being real all the time. The truth is, your emotional range is your creative range. The deeper you can feel, the more alive you become. The more you let yourself experience the full spectrum of being human, the more material you have to work with. This is why artists often create their best work during their darkest periods. Not because suffering is noble, but because they stop editing their inner experience. They let everything be there, and then they make something from it. You can do the same thing. Your emptiness can become poetry. Your confusion can become curiosity. Your restlessness can become exploration. But first, you have to stop trying to get back to who you were before. That person is gone. And good. They were keeping you small anyway. The new you isn't going to look like anyone else's version of success. They might not have a 5-year plan or a personal brand or a clear elevator pitch. They might move slowly, change direction often, and care about things that don't make sense to other people. That's not a bug. That's a feature. You're finally becoming authentic instead of acceptable. And here's the beautiful part. When you start moving from this place of authenticity, everything changes. Work stops feeling like work because you're doing what you're actually designed to do. Relationships improve because you're relating as yourself instead of as who you think you should be. Creativity flows because you're not censoring it before it has a chance to exist. This isn't about becoming fearless or confident or unstoppable in the traditional sense. It's about becoming honest. And honesty is the most powerful force in the universe because it aligns you with reality instead of fighting against it. Your new motivation will feel different. Instead of forcing yourself forward, you'll find yourself drawn forward. Instead of pushing through resistance, you'll dance with it. Instead of trying to control outcomes, you'll trust the process. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on goals. It means letting your goals come from your soul instead of your shoulds. It means building a life that fits who you are instead of trying to fit into a life that was never meant for you. The practical side matters too. You still need to pay bills and show up for people and take care of your health. But now these things become expressions of self-love instead of obligations. You take care of your body because you want to feel good in it, not because you have to look a certain way. You work because you have something to contribute, not because you have something to prove. Small actions become sacred when they come from this place. Making breakfast becomes a ritual. Walking becomes meditation. Conversations become connections instead of performances. You start to trust your own rhythm instead of forcing yourself to keep up with everyone else's pace. Some days you move fast. Some days you move slow. Both are perfect because they're both true to what you need in that moment. This is what integration looks like. Not the death of your ego, but the taming of it. Your ego becomes a useful tool instead of your master. It helps you navigate the world without convincing you that the world is all there is. Your identity becomes flexible instead of rigid. You can be professional when you need to be professional, creative when you need to be creative, serious when the situation calls for it, playful when your soul needs to play. You stop being one thing and start being everything you are. The emptiness that scared you becomes spaciousness. The confusion becomes openness. The lack of direction becomes freedom to go anywhere. And slowly, very slowly, things start to matter again. Not the same things that mattered before, but new things, real things. Things that connect you to yourself and to others and to something larger than your individual story. You might find yourself caring about beauty in ways you never did before, or justice, or truth, or simply being present with the people you love. These aren't grand ambitions. They're quiet revolutions that change everything from the inside out. The motivation that emerges from this place isn't desperate or frantic or driven by fear of failure. It's steady and sustainable and connected to something deeper than personal achievement. It's the difference between running from something and moving toward something. You stop asking, "What do I want to do with my life?" and start asking, "What wants to emerge through me?" You stop trying to figure out your purpose and start letting your purpose reveal itself through your choices, your attention, your love. This is the real rebirth. Not a dramatic transformation that happens overnight, but a gradual awakening to who you've always been underneath all the layers of who you thought you had to be. The person emerging from your ego death isn't an improved version of your old self. They're a completely different being who happens to live in the same body and remember the same past. They move differently, love differently, work differently, dream differently. And the most surprising part? They don't need external validation to know they're on the right path. They carry their own compass now. They trust their own inner knowing more than any expert's advice or society's expectations. This is what it means to be truly free. Not free from responsibility or challenge or difficulty, but free to respond to life as yourself instead of as who you think you should be. The motivation that comes from this place isn't motivation at all. It's expression. It's the natural movement of life through you when you stop blocking it with your ideas about how life should look. You become like water finding its way to the ocean. There's no struggle, no force, no desperate pushing, just natural movement toward what feels most alive, most real, most true. And that's where you find your power, not in the ability to make yourself do things you don't want to do, but in the discovery that when you align with who you really are, you want to do the things that matter most. The journey from ego death to authentic action isn't about finding motivation. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to find it because they are it. You become motivation itself, life expressing itself through your unique perspective, your particular gifts, your irreplaceable way of being in the world. Think about how plants grow. They don't force themselves toward the sun. They don't set goals or make vision boards or read self-help books about photosynthesis. They simply turn naturally toward what gives them life. That's what you're learning to do now. Turn toward what feeds your soul instead of what feeds your ego. The old you would have panicked by now, would have made lists and set deadlines and tried to manufacture enthusiasm for things that didn't really matter. But this new version of you knows something the old you never learned. Real change happens in seasons, not in moments. Spring doesn't arrive all at once. First, there are tiny buds, then small leaves, then flowers, then fruit. Each stage is necessary. Each stage is perfect in its timing. You can't rush a tree into blooming, and you can't rush yourself into becoming. What feels like slowness is actually precision. What feels like confusion is actually clarity in the making. What feels like emptiness is actually fullness waiting to be discovered. Your rebirth isn't behind schedule. It's exactly on time. Every day you spend in this in-between space is preparing you for what comes next. Every moment of not knowing is teaching you how to trust. Every experience of feeling lost is showing you how to find yourself again and again. Here's what nobody warns you about, though. People around you might not understand this process. They see you resting and call it lazy. They see you questioning everything and call it a crisis. They see you changing and call it unstable. That's because most people are terrified of their own transformation. When they see you going through yours, it reminds them of everything they've been avoiding. Your courage to fall apart threatens their need to stay together. Your willingness to not know challenges their certainty. Your authentic confusion feels dangerous to their fake clarity. Don't let their fear become your doubt. Don't let their need for you to stay the same pull you back into a life that no longer fits. You're not having a breakdown. You're having a breakthrough. And breakthroughs are messy by design. The caterpillar doesn't know it's becoming a butterfly when it enters the cocoon. It just knows something is calling it to dissolve, to let go of everything it thought it was, to trust a process it's never been through before. Inside that cocoon, there's no caterpillar and no butterfly. Just soup. Just potential. Just the raw materials of transformation doing what they do best. Becoming something entirely new. You're in the soup phase right now. And soup doesn't look like much. It doesn't have wings or beautiful colors or the ability to fly. It just is. But without the soup, there's no butterfly. So when people ask what you're doing with your life, when they want to know your 5-year plan, when they pressure you to get back to normal, remember this. Normal was killing you slowly. Normal was the reason you needed to die in the first place. What you're doing now isn't nothing. It's everything. You're literally rebuilding yourself from the ground up. You're choosing every piece that goes into the new version. You're deciding what stays and what goes. You're becoming conscious of your own creation. This is the most important work anyone can do. It's the work that changes not just your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. Because when you show up as who you really are instead of who you think you should be, you give others permission to do the same. Your transformation ripples out in ways you'll never see. The person you become by going through this process will say things, do things, create things that the old you never could have. You'll impact people in ways that only the real you can. But right now, in the middle of it all, it just feels like you're not doing enough. Like you should have it figured out by now. Like everyone else is moving forward while you're standing still. That's the illusion. You're not standing still. You're going deeper. And sometimes going deeper looks like going nowhere to people who only measure progress by forward motion. That quiet knowing you feel right now, that sense that something is shifting even if you can't name it yet, trust it. It's not dramatic or flashy or Instagram worthy, but it's real, and that's enough. If this spoke to you, if you felt even a tiny shift while watching, hit that subscribe button and join a space for deep thinkers, soul seekers, and those who are done pretending. And I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell what part of this landed for you the most. Or where are you right now in your own process of awakening? Your story matters, and you never know who it might help.